The massive crystal chamber buzzed with voices from across the galaxy. Beings of all shapes and sizes filled the floating platforms, their alien forms casting strange shadows under the purple glow of the chamber's lights. This was the Galactic High Command. Where the most important decisions in the universe were made, Commander Zexatora stood at the center of it all, his tall, insect-like body perfectly still. His 3 golden eyes swept across the room, watching the heated debate unfold before him. The topic today was one that made his stomach turn with old memories: humanity. "These humans are nothing special," declared Counselor Rex, his blue tentacles waving dismissively. "They live on a single planet, fight with simple metal projectiles, and haven't even mastered faster-than-light travel. Why are we even discussing them?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many of the younger council members had never actually encountered humans before. To them, Earth's inhabitants were just another primitive species in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. "Their technology is centuries behind ours," added another voice from the crowd. "They use chemical explosions to power their vehicles and still rely on electromagnetic radiation for communication. What threat could they possibly pose to beings who have mastered quantum mechanics and dimensional travel?" Zexthera's claws slowly scraped against the metal platform beneath his feet. The sound made several nearby counselors glance in his direction. His exoskeleton bore old scars, deep grooves that had never properly healed. Despite the advanced medical technology available to their species, Commander called out Elder Kith, the ancient being who led the council. "You've been unusually quiet during this discussion. Surely you have thoughts on humanity's status." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew Zexthera's reputation as one of their finest military commanders. He had led successful campaigns against the Crystal Hive, defeated the Machine Collective, and survived encounters with species that had wiped out entire star systems. If anyone understood warfare and dangerous opponents, it was him. Zexthora took a deep breath, his respiratory slits fluttering along his neck. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made the younger counselors lean forward. "You speak of humans as if they are harmless children playing with toys," he began, his 3 eyes focusing on different sections of the audience. "You judge them by their technology, by their lack of space travel, by their simple weapons. This is exactly the mistake I once made, and it nearly cost me everything." He paused, letting his words sink in. The chamber remained perfectly quiet, hanging on every syllable. 30 years ago, I was young and foolish, much like many of you today. I believed that superior technology meant superior capability. I thought that beings who could manipulate matter at the quantum level could never be threatened by creatures who still used gunpowder and metal bullets. His right claw unconsciously traced a particularly deep scar that ran from his shoulder to his chest. The mark was perfectly straight, as if something had cut through his armor-like shell with surgical precision. I was chosen to lead the first covert observation mission to Earth. 5 of us, the best of our species, equipped with technology that made us invisible to their sensors and invulnerable to their weapons, or so we believed. The younger counselors exchanged glances. They had heard rumors of early contact with humans, but the official records were classified at the highest levels. "We thought it would be simple," Zexthera continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Watch them from a safe distance, document their capabilities, and return with confirmation that they pose no threat to galactic civilization. We were so confident in our superiority that we treated it like a vacation." He moved closer to the center of the chamber, his movements deliberate and controlled. Every step seemed to carry the weight of terrible memories. "We positioned ourselves on high ground, more than 2 kilometers from their military facilities. Our cloaking technology made us completely invisible to their primitive sensors. Our energy shields could deflect projectiles, traveling at several times the speed of sound. We had escape pods ready for immediate extraction if anything went wrong." His voice grew harder, more intense. "But nothing could have prepared us for what we encountered. There is a type of human warrior, a specialist that your databases probably classify as insignificant. They call them snipers. This single word should terrify every being in this chamber, but you don't understand what it means. You can't comprehend what these humans are capable of. Counselor Vrex shifted uncomfortably. Commander, surely you're not suggesting that individual. Humans could pose a threat to our forces. Zexthora's three eyes locked onto Vrex, with an intensity that made the blue-skinned counselor step backward. I'm not suggesting anything, Zexthora replied. I'm telling you that one human, armed with what you would consider primitive technology, systematically hunted and eliminated my entire team. One human turned 5 of our best warriors into prey, using nothing but patience, intelligence, and a weapon that fires metal projectiles. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Several counselors looked skeptical, while others seemed genuinely concerned. The human military produces specialists who can place a projectile into a target the size of a small coin from distances of over 2 kilometers, Zexera continued. They can remain motionless for days, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They understand wind patterns, atmospheric pressure, and gravitational effects better than our own ballistics computers. He paused again, letting the implications settle in. But that's not the terrifying part. The truly frightening aspect of human snipers is their ability to think like their targets. They study behavior patterns, predict movement, and anticipate reactions with an accuracy that our best artificial intelligence systems struggle to match. Elder Kith leaned forward, his ancient features creased with concern. Commander, are you saying that humans possess some form of advanced predictive technology? No, Zexthera replied grimly. They do it with their minds. Raw intelligence, experience, and an understanding of psychology that comes from millions of years of evolution. Ask persistence hunters. They don't just see targets. They see thinking, feeling beings with predictable patterns of behavior. The chamber had become so quiet that the hum of the life support systems seemed deafening. Counselors who had been dismissive of humanity just minutes before now looked troubled. That day on Earth changed everything I thought I knew about combat. About intelligence, and about the nature of dangerous opponents, Zexthera said. I learned that technology means nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. I discovered that the deadliest weapon in the universe isn't a plasma cannon or a quantum disruptor. It's a thinking mind that refuses to give up. His scarred claws clenched into fists. If you truly want to understand humanity, if you want to know whether they deserve a place among the galactic community, then you need to hear what happened to my team on that mountain. You need to understand what it means to be hunted by a human sniper. The commander's 3 eyes swept across the chamber one final time. Because if you ever find yourself facing one, you'll pray to whatever gods you believe in that you never underestimated the species that learned to kill. Mammoths with sharpened sticks and turn that same deadly patience into an art form. The council chamber seemed to fade away as Zexathara's memories pulled him back 30 years. His 3 eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened again, he was no longer standing before his fellow counselors. In his mind, he was young again, confident and eager to prove himself on what everyone believed would be a simple mission. It was early morning when our ship dropped us off. Zexthera began, his voice taking on a distant quality. The mountains of Earth stretched out before us like jagged teeth against the sky. The air was thin at that altitude, and I remember thinking how primitive this planet seemed. No energy barriers protecting their settlements, no quantum shields around their military bases, bare rock, sparse vegetation, and structures that looked like they were built with simple tools. He gestured with one claw, as if pointing to something only he could see. Our team consisted of 5 specialists. I was the youngest squad leader in our military's history, chosen for this mission because of my tactical analysis skills. Cleeks was our weapons expert, a being who could identify any threatening technology from 1,000 meters away. Veltar served as our scout, capable of detecting life forms through solid rock using his enhanced sensory organs. Nox was our engineer, responsible for maintaining our equipment and analyzing any human technology we encountered. And finally, there was Quinn, our communications specialist who could intercept and decode any signal the humans might transmit. The alien commander paused, and several counselors noticed his hands trembling slightly. These were beings who had died under his command, and the weight of their loss still affected him decades later. We were equipped with the most advanced technology our civilization had ever produced. Our personal cloaking devices bent light around us, making us completely invisible to any detection method the humans possessed. Our energy shields could stop projectiles traveling at incredible speeds. Our armor was forged from materials that could withstand plasma fire and quantum disruption beams. He laughed bitterly, a sound that made the watching counselors shift uncomfortably. We also carried long-range sensors that could detect human heartbeats from over a kilometer away, atmospheric analyzers that could identify chemical compositions, from microscopic traces and communication equipment that could send messages across the galaxy in real time. By any measure, we were the most technologically advanced beings on that planet. Zexthara began pacing slowly, his claws clicking against the metal floor of the chamber. The mission briefing was simple. Observe human military capabilities from a safe distance, document their weapons and tactics, and return with a complete analysis of their threat level. Command estimated the mission would take 3 days. We were told to maintain a minimum distance of 2 kilometers from any human installation. Not because they could harm us, but because we didn't want to accidentally reveal our presence. His 3 eyes focused on different sections of the council chamber, ensuring everyone was paying attention. We chose a ridge overlooking one of their training facilities. The humans called it a military base, though it looked more like a collection of simple buildings surrounded by an equally simple fence. No energy barriers, no automated defense systems, no orbital platforms, just humans with their basic weapons, practicing what they called combat exercises. The alien commander's voice grew more animated as he recalled the details. For the first 3 days, everything went exactly as planned. We documented their vehicles, which moved using controlled chemical explosions. We recorded their aircraft, which relied on airflow over shaped wings for lift. We analyzed their weapons, which used chemical propellants to launch metal projectiles at subsonic speeds. Every piece of technology they possessed was centuries behind our own. He stopped pacing and faced the council directly. Veltar, our scout, was particularly amused by their firearms. He calculated that even their largest weapons couldn't penetrate our personal shields. The projectiles were too slow, too simple, too primitive to pose any threat to beings with our defensive technology. We began to treat the mission as a learning exercise about backward civilizations. Zexthara. His expression grew darker. The humans seemed to follow predictable patterns. They woke at the same time each day, conducted the same types of training exercises, and followed the same security protocols. Klix, our weapons expert, compiled a detailed report on their tactical limitations. He noted that humans appeared to have poor night vision, limited long-range detection capabilities, and relied heavily on direct line of sight for their weapon systems. His voice dropped to a more serious tone. We were so confident in our observations that we began to relax our own security protocols. Why maintain constant vigilance when monitoring beings who couldn't possibly detect us? Why worry about tactical positioning when facing opponents whose weapons couldn't reach us? We started treating the mission like a vacation, taking turns observing while others rested or maintained equipment. The alien commander's claws unconsciously traced his old scars again. On the 4th morning, something changed. I noticed it first during the pre-dawn hours when I was monitoring their base through our long-range sensors. The humans had stopped their regular training exercises. Instead of their usual patterns of movement, there was an unusual stillness around their facilities. He paused, and the council chamber seemed to hold its breath. At first, we thought they might be conducting some kind of maintenance or administrative work, but as the morning progressed, the stillness became more pronounced. Humans who had been following the same routines for days suddenly altered their behavior. Guards who normally walked predictable patrol routes began moving in different patterns. Personnel who typically remained at their posts started relocating to different positions. Zexthara's 3 eyes narrowed as he recalled the details. Nox, our engineer, suggested that they might be conducting some kind of security drill. It seemed logical that a military organization would occasionally test their procedures. We decided to maintain our observation schedule and document whatever new behaviors we might witness. His voice grew more tense. That's when Veltar detected the anomaly. Using his enhanced sensory organs, he identified a single human figure moving into position approximately 3 kilometers from our location. This individual was traveling alone, carrying equipment that our sensors couldn't fully analyze from. That distance, the alien commander's hands clenched into fists. 3 kilometers. That was well beyond what we calculated as the maximum effective range of any human weapon. Our tactical analysis indicated that even their most advanced projectile systems would be useless at such distances. The projectiles would lose too much velocity. Atmospheric interference would affect accuracy, and the curvature of the planet itself would make targeting impossible. He looked directly at the younger counselors who had been dismissive of human capabilities. Clix ran the calculations 3 times to be certain. According to our understanding of physics and ballistics, no human weapon could pose a threat to us at that distance. The individual we detected was so far away that we barely considered them relevant to our mission. Zexthora's voice became barely above a whisper. We couldn't have been more wrong. That lone human, positioned at what we considered an impossible distance, was about to teach us a lesson in warfare that our species had never encountered. They were about to demonstrate that the deadliest weapon in the universe isn't advanced technology. He paused, letting the tension build. That's a patient mind that refuses to accept limitations. Zexthera's 3 eyes seemed to lose focus as the memory took hold of him completely. His voice became hollow, as if he was reliving every terrifying moment of that day 30 years ago. The morning sun was climbing higher over the mountain ridge when it happened. He began, his words careful and measured. We were positioned behind a rocky outcrop, our cloaking devices active, our sensors scanning the human base below. Veltar was monitoring the perimeter through his enhanced vision, while the rest of us documented what we thought would be another routine day of observation. The alien commander's claws scraped against the floor of the council chamber, the sound echoing in the silence. I remember feeling completely secure. Our energy shields were operating at full power, our cloaking systems showed no signs of detection, and we were positioned at what we considered an absolutely safe distance. The lone human we had spotted 3 kilometers away seemed irrelevant. To our mission, it's just another tiny figure in a landscape full of humans going about their daily activities. His voice grew quieter, forcing the council members to lean forward to hear every word. Veltar was using his sensory organs to track movement patterns around the base when the first shot came. There was no warning, no sound of approaching projectiles, no energy signatures that our sensors could detect. One moment he was focused on his readings, sharing observations about human patrol schedules, and the next moment, Zexthera stopped speaking entirely for several seconds, his respiratory slits fluttering rapidly along his neck. He simply wasn't there anymore. Where Veltar's head had been, there was nothing. His body remained standing for a few seconds before, collapsing, but his head had been completely destroyed. Not damaged, not wounded, completely gone. Vaporized by something that had traveled faster than our sensors could track. The council chamber was so quiet that the hum of the life support systems seemed deafeningly loud. Several younger counselors looked skeptical, while the older members appeared deeply concerned. The rest of us stared in shock for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. This was impossible according to everything we knew about human technology. Their projectile weapons were primitive, their maximum range was limited, and their accuracy at extreme distances was supposed to be negligible. Zexthera began pacing again, his movements jerky and agitated. Clix was the first to recover from the shock. As our weapons expert, he immediately began scanning for the source of the attack. His equipment detected no energy discharges, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic anomalies. Whatever had eliminated Veltar had left no trace that our advanced sensors could identify. Alien Commander's voice grew more urgent. That's when Clix made his second mistake. He assumed that the attack had come from the human base below us, nearly 2 kilometers away. He adjusted his position to get better sensor coverage of their facilities, moving out from behind our rocky cover to scan the area more effectively. Zexthara's 3 eyes closed briefly, as if he couldn't bear to watch the memory play out again. The second shot came while Clix was repositioning. This time I saw the impact. A projectile moving faster than anything we thought human technology could produce struck Clix's right arm. The limb was severed cleanly, spinning away from his body, trailing purple fluid. But that wasn't the shocking part. It looked directly at the younger counselors who had been dismissive of human capabilities. The shocking part was that Clix's personal energy shield was operating at full power when the projectile hit. Our shields were designed to stop anything moving at several times the speed of sound. They could deflect plasma bursts, quantum disruptor beams, and high-velocity projectiles from our own advanced weapons. But this simple human projectile passed through the shield as if it wasn't there. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the council chamber. Several members began consulting their data tablets, trying to understand how primitive human weapons could penetrate advanced alien defensive systems. Clix staggered backward, clutching the wound where his arm had been. His medical systems were already working to seal the injury, but the shock on his face was something I'll never forget. He kept staring at his energy shield readings, unable to comprehend how something so simple could bypass technology that had protected him through dozens of combat missions. Zexera's voice became more strained. That's when the real terror began. We realized that someone was hunting us with weapons we didn't understand. From a distance we had thought was safe, using methods that our sensors couldn't detect. Every assumption we had made about human limitations was proving to be completely wrong. The alien commander stopped pacing and faced the council directly. Knox, our engineer, immediately began working on emergency protocols. He tried to boost our shield power, recalibrate our cloaking systems, and establish communication with our extraction team. But when he attempted to send a distress signal, he discovered that our communications were being blocked. His three eyes widened as he recalled the moment. The humans were jamming our signals using their primitive electromagnetic technology. Somehow, they had identified our communication frequencies and were preventing us from calling for help. This shouldn't have been possible. Our quantum communication systems operated on principles that human science wasn't supposed to understand. Zexathora's claws clenched into fists. We were alone on that mountain ridge, being hunted by an enemy we couldn't see, using weapons that defied our understanding of physics. 3 of us remained, trapped by technology we had dismissed as primitive, facing an opponent who seemed to know exactly where we were despite our advanced cloaking systems. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. That's when I realized we weren't dealing with a random human patrol or a lucky shot from their base. Someone out there had been watching us, studying us, learning our patterns and capabilities. Someone had been planning this encounter while we assumed we were invisible observers. The alien commander looked around the council chamber, ensuring every member was paying attention. The human positioned 3 kilometers away wasn't just carrying a weapon. They were carrying knowledge. They understood how our shields worked, how our cloaking systems functioned, and how our minds operated under pressure. This wasn't primitive technology defeating advanced systems. He paused for effect. This was superior intelligence using available tools to maximum effectiveness. The human wasn't trying to match our technology. They were using our assumptions against us, exploiting weaknesses we didn't know we had. Zexthera's scarred claws traced the old wounds on his exoskeleton. Quinn, our communications specialist, was working frantically to re-establish contact with our ship when the 3rd shot came. This one was different. Instead of eliminating him immediately, the projectile struck his life support system with surgical precision. The shot damaged his breathing apparatus without affecting any other systems. The alien commander's voice became filled with horrified admiration. Quinn began struggling to breathe in Earth's atmosphere. His distress calls filled our comm channels as his systems slowly failed. But the shot had been perfectly calculated. He wasn't dying quickly. He was dying slowly, forcing the rest of us to choose between attempting a rescue that would expose our positions or abandoning a teammate to save ourselves. Zexera looked directly at Elder Kith. That's when I understood what we were really facing. This wasn't just about superior marksmanship or advanced tactics. The human hunting us possessed something that our technology couldn't replicate, and our training hadn't prepared us for. His three eyes seemed to burn with the intensity of the memory. They understood psychology. They knew how we would react to seeing our teammates in danger. They could predict our emotional responses and use them as weapons more effective than any plasma cannon. The council chamber remained absolutely silent as Zexthera delivered his final observation. We weren't being hunted by a human with advanced weapons. We were being studied by a human mind that had turned patience, intelligence, and understanding into the deadliest combination in the universe. Zexthera's breathing became labored as he continued his account, his three eyes darting around the council chamber as if he expected danger to emerge from the shadows at any moment. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about warfare, about intelligence, and about the nature of true predators, he said, his voice heavy with the weight of memory. The human hunting us began what I can only describe as a masterclass in psychological combat. Instead of finishing us quickly, they started to teach us lessons we never wanted to learn.
Oh.
The alien commander moved closer to the center of the chamber, his scarred claws reflecting the purple light from above. For the next 6 hours, that lone human demonstrated capabilities that our military academies never prepared us for. Every few minutes, a shot would ring out across the mountain. But these weren't random attacks designed to eliminate us as quickly as possible. Each shot was carefully planned, precisely timed, and calculated to achieve maximum psychological impact. His voice grew more intense as he relived those terrifying hours. The fourth shot came while Knox and I were trying to help Quinn with his damaged life support system. We had taken cover behind a large boulder, thinking we were finally safe from the invisible hunter. The projectile struck the rock just centimeters from my head, sending fragments of stone spinning past my face. The message was clear. The human could have ended me at any moment, but chose not to. Zexthera paused, letting the implications sink into the minds of his audience. That's when I realized we weren't just being hunted, we were being studied. The human was learning how we moved, how we thought, how we reacted under extreme pressure. Every shot was gathering data about our behavior patterns, our tactical responses, and our psychological breaking points. Oh. The alien commander began pacing. Again, his movements agitated and unpredictable. The fifth shot demonstrated the human's understanding of our technology in ways that terrified me. Knox had activated his personal force field at maximum power while working on emergency repairs. To our communication equipment, the projectile struck his energy pack with surgical precision, causing a cascade failure that shut down his shields completely without harming any other systems. His three eyes widened as he recalled the moment. This wasn't luck or random chance. The human had somehow analyzed our equipment from 3 kilometers away and identified the exact vulnerability that would disable our defenses while leaving us alive. They understood our technology better than we understood their capabilities. Zexthera voice became filled with reluctant admiration. But the truly horrifying demonstration of human tactical thinking came during our first attempt to escape. We decided to move downhill, using the natural terrain to break line of sight with our attacker. We thought that if we could reach the valley below, we might be able to find cover and re-establish communications with our extraction team. He stopped pacing and faced the council directly. The moment we began our descent, a shot struck the ground directly in front of us. But in front of us. The projectile hit a loose section of rock, triggering a small landslide that blocked our chosen escape route. The human had anticipated our movement, predicted our tactical decision, and prepared a response before we even made our attempt. The council chamber filled with murmurs of disbelief. Several younger members looked skeptical, while the older counselors appeared increasingly disturbed by the implications. We tried a different route, moving along the ridge toward what appeared to be better cover. Again, a perfectly placed shot blocked our path, this time striking a dead tree that fell across our intended escape route. The human wasn't just reacting to our movements, they were thinking several steps ahead, controlling our options like pieces on a game board. Zexthera's claws scraped against the metal floor as his agitation increased. That's when the real psychological warfare began. The humans started timing their shots to maximize our terror. A projectile would strike just as we thought we had found safety. Another would hit when we were at our most vulnerable, trying to help an injured teammate. Each shot was perfectly calculated to increase our stress levels and cloud our judgment. Voice dropped to a whisper, forcing the council members to strain to hear every word. The most terrifying moment came when we discovered that the human was using our own advanced camouflage technology against us. Nox had activated his personal cloaking device, making himself invisible to most forms of detection. But somehow, the human tracked his movement and placed a shot that grazed his shoulder, demonstrating that our most sophisticated concealment systems were useless against their methods. The alien commander's three eyes seemed to lose focus as he recalled the horror of that realization. We began to understand that we weren't facing primitive technology enhanced by luck or chance. We were confronting a mind that had adapted to overcome superior equipment through pure intelligence and tactical innovation. The human wasn't trying to match our capabilities. They were using our advantages against us. Zexera moved closer. To the younger counselors who had initially dismissed human potential, the seventh shot was the most psychologically devastating of all. Quinn was still struggling with his damaged life support system, his breathing becoming more labored by the minute. The human could have ended his suffering with a single precise shot, but instead they chose to demonstrate their control over the situation in a different way. He paused, building tension in the chamber. The projectile struck Quinn's medical kit, destroying the emergency supplies we needed to repair his life support system. Not his body, not his equipment, but the one thing that might have saved his life. The human was showing us that they controlled not just our deaths, but our hopes of survival. The alien commander's voice became filled with a mixture of terror and respect. As the hours passed, we began to realize that every shot was teaching something about human capabilities. Their patience was unlimited. They could wait motionless for hours, watching for the perfect moment to strike. Their understanding of physics and ballistics exceeded our computer calculations. Their ability to predict our behavior was more accurate than our own psychological profiles. Zexthera looked around the council chamber, ensuring every member understood the gravity of his words. But the most frightening discovery was that this human was enjoying the hunt. Not in a cruel or sadistic way, but with the satisfaction of a master craftsman demonstrating their skills. Each shot was perfectly placed, each tactical decision was flawlessly executed, and each psychological manipulation was precisely calibrated. His scarred claws traced the old wounds on his exoskeleton. By the 6th hour, Nox and I were the only team members still fully functional. Quinn was slowly dying from his damaged life support system, while we watched helplessly from cover. Human had reduced us from a confident military unit to terrified survivors. Using nothing but patience, intelligence, and a weapon that fired simple metal projectiles. The alien commander's voice grew stronger as he approached the climax of his account. That's when I made the most difficult decision of my military career. I realized that our only chance of survival was to do something the human wouldn't expect. Something that went against every tactical principle we had been taught. He paused, letting the tension build to an almost unbearable level. I decided to sacrifice everything we had been trained to protect our technology. Our secrecy, our mission objectives, for the slim chance that one of us might escape to warn others about what humanity was truly capable of. Zexthera's three eyes seemed to burn with the intensity of that long-ago decision, because I had learned something that day that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The deadliest predator in the universe isn't the one with the most advanced weapons or the strongest armor. It's the one that can think like their prey, anticipate their moves, and turn their own strengths into weaknesses. His voice dropped too, barely above a whisper. On that mountain ridge, facing a single human, armed with primitive technology, I discovered that we had never been the hunters at all. It had always been the prey. The council chamber seemed to hold its breath as Zexathora prepared to reveal the conclusion of his harrowing tale. His three eyes reflected the chamber's purple light as he gathered the strength to relive the final, most terrifying moments of that day 30 years ago. As the sun began to set over the mountain ridge, I knew we were running out of time, he began, his voice carrying the weight of impossible decisions. Quinn's life support system was failing completely. His breathing had become shallow and irregular. Nox was working frantically to repair our communication equipment. The humans' jamming signals were still blocking our attempts to call for help. The alien commander's claws unconsciously traced his deepest scar as he continued. It's when I made the decision that saved my life and haunts me to this day. I realized that the human had been keeping us alive for a reason. They weren't just hunting us. They were conducting an experiment. They wanted to understand how we thought, how we operated, how we responded to pressure. We were test subjects in their study of alien psychology. His voice grew more determined. I decided to give them exactly what they wanted, but not in the way they expected. Instead of continuing to react predictably to their tactics, I chose to do something completely illogical, something that went against every survival instinct and military training I possessed. Zexthera moved to the center of the chamber, his movements deliberate and controlled. I told Nox to activate our emergency beacon, the device that would signal our extraction team to retrieve us immediately. But instead of hiding while he worked, I did something the human wouldn't anticipate. I left our cover completely, walking out into the open where the sniper could see me clearly. Gasps of shock rippled through the council chamber. Several younger members looked confused, while the older counselors leaned forward with intense interest. I wasn't surrendering or giving up, Zexthera explained quickly. I was betting everything on my understanding of human psychology. That terrible day, the human had demonstrated perfect control over every situation. Every shot had been precisely calculated. Every tactical decision had been flawlessly executed. They were a master of their craft, and masters don't waste opportunities. To complete their work perfectly, his three eyes seemed to burn with the memory of that desperate gamble. I walked slowly across the rocky terrain, making myself the most obvious target possible. My energy shields were powered down, my weapons were holstered, and my cloaking device was deactivated. I was completely vulnerable, offering the human the perfect shot they had been setting up all day. The alien commander paused, letting the tension build in the chamber. But I was counting on something I had observed during our hours of being hunted. This human wasn't just a tactical genius, they were an artist. Every shot had demonstrated not just skill, but elegance. Not just effectiveness, but perfection. They wouldn't settle for a simple, easy target when they could achieve something more challenging. Zexthera's voice grew more intense. As I walked across the open ground, I felt the human's attention focus on me like a physical weight. Through our long-range sensors, Nox detected movement from the sniper's position for the first time all day. The human was adjusting their weapon, calculating angles, preparing for what they assumed would be their final shot. His claws clenched into fists as he recalled those terrifying moments. But instead of targeting me directly, I knew they would wait for a more complex shot. Something that would demonstrate their complete mastery over the situation. They would want to eliminate me at the exact moment our rescue arrived, proving that even our advanced extraction technology couldn't save us from human precision. The council chamber was completely silent, every member hanging on Zexthera's words. The extraction beam activated just as I reached the center of the open area. Our ship's quantum transportation system began pulling me toward safety, my body starting to fade as the teleportation sequence engaged. And in that split second between worlds, the human took their shot. Zexthera's voice became barely audible. The projectile struck my exoskeleton just as the transport beam completed its cycle. If the timing had been even slightly different, if the human had fired a fraction of a second earlier or later, I would have been eliminated completely. But instead, the shot grazed my shell, carving this scar that I carry to this day. He gestured to the deep groove that ran across his torso. As I materialized aboard our rescue ship, bleeding and traumatized, I realized what had happened. Human had demonstrated their ultimate capability. They could kill targets. Even while they were being teleported away by technology that operated faster than light. The shot wasn't meant to eliminate me, it was meant to send a message. The alien commander's three eyes swept across the council chamber. But the real revelation came when our ship's sensors analyzed the sniper's position during our extraction. For the first time all day, we got a clear view of our hunter. And what I saw changed my understanding of warfare forever. His voice filled with reluctant admiration. The human was lying motionless, in a camouflage position that provided perfect sight lines to every possible escape route we might have chosen. They had been there for hours, completely still, waiting patiently for us to make our moves. No advanced cloaking technology, no energy shields, no quantum computers. It's just a single human mind that had out-hot our entire team. Zexthera paused, letting the implications sink in. Our sensors revealed that the human's position had been carefully selected before we even arrived on the mountain. They had studied the terrain, calculated our most likely observation points, and prepared for our mission before we knew we were being hunted. While we thought we were the observers, they had been watching us from the moment we landed. The alien! Commander's voice grew stronger as he returned to the present moment. When I stood before the debriefing committee and tried to explain what had happened, they didn't believe me initially. How could primitive human technology defeat our most advanced equipment? How could a single individual outmatch 5 highly trained specialists? How could simple projectile weapons penetrate energy shields that could stop plasma fire? His 3 eyes focused on the younger counselors who had been dismissive of human capabilities. But the evidence was undeniable. 3 team members had been eliminated or critically injured by weapons that shouldn't have been able to harm us. Our communication systems had been jammed by technology we considered obsolete. Our tactical decisions had been predicted and countered by an opponent who seemed to understand our psychology better than we understood it ourselves. Zexthera moved closer to the council members. The final report classified the incident at the highest security levels, but the conclusions were clear. Humanity possesses capabilities that our standard threat assessments cannot measure. Their intelligence, creativity, and adaptability make them potentially more dangerous than species with far superior technology. His voice took on an urgent tone. That's why I stand before you today, 30 years later, with these scars and these memories. Not to terrify you, but to ensure that we never make the same mistake again. When we approach humanity for first contact, we must do so with complete respect for their capabilities. The alien commander faced Elder Kith directly. The human designation sniper represents something that our military doctrine has never encountered. Before the perfect fusion of technology, intelligence, patience, and tactical thinking, they take simple tools and transform them into instruments of precision that rival our most advanced weapon systems. His 3 eyes seemed to burn with conviction. If we approach humanity as equals, if we offer them partnership instead of dominance, if we respect their intelligence instead of dismissing their technology, then we might find valuable allies in this galaxy. But if we repeat my mistake, if we underestimate them because their weapons seem primitive or their technology appears backward, then we risk facing opponents who will turn our own advantages against us. Zexthera's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. Because I learned something on that mountain that day. The most dangerous weapon in the universe isn't a plasma cannon or a quantum disruptor. It's a human mind that has decided you are a threat that needs to be eliminated. He paused for one final moment. And if you ever find yourself facing a human sniper, remember this warning. You're not fighting their technology. You're not competing with their equipment. You're matching your intelligence against a mind that evolved from creatures who hunted mammoths with sharpened sticks and learned to turn patience into the deadliest weapon in existence. The council chamber remained silent for several long moments after Zexthera finished speaking. Finally, Elder Kith spoke, his ancient voice carrying new respect for the species they had dismissed just hours before. The vote is unanimous. He announced, humanity will be approached as equals, with full diplomatic honors and complete respect for their capabilities. May we never forget the lesson that Commander Zexthera paid such a terrible price to learn. As the council members began to file out, discussing the implications of what they had heard, Zexthera remained standing in the center of the chamber. His claws unconsciously traced the scar that would forever remind him of the day he learned that the